Mr. Birdie, members of the board, we do have 2 items for board discussion this evening. Our first item is Board of Education Professional Development, and I'll turn it over to Michael Birdie.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I did reach out to OSBA, and they did make a representative available to have a retreat on December the 10th. That was one of the dates that we discussed that would work for us. So we do have something set up for December 10th, and I just need to reply back for a start time for a 3-hour retreat and a location. So I'll open it up to the floor for suggestions on when would be a good time to start the retreat, and if there's a preference on where you'd like to have it.
I think we had the last one at the administration building. Does that work?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Into there?
that's fine.
So I kind of had an idea that if the space was available to maybe explore our expanded learning area at the freshman building, maybe take a representative from OSBA into one of our new buildings, kind of show it off a little bit, and if we could possibly get into, one of those learning environments where they can open up the doors to the classrooms and kind of teach out into the corridor or the hallway, shared. I'll entertain those thoughts on that. If
Yeah, I think that's
if
great.
Something.
That works too?
So, Mr. Smith and Mrs. Lane, would you possibly reach out to see if a space is available at the freshman school?
Yes.
And then just get back to me so that I can let OSBA know that's where we're going to have it. Now, what about a time
I'm flexible.
on that date? It's December the 10th.
Can we start sooner than 6:30, or is that difficult for you, Mrs. Shorter?
It is a little bit more difficult, yeah. 6 o'clock, 5:30. 5:30 is probably okay.
We could start as early as 5:30 for you?
Yeah.
Mrs. Gundren, what time will you get?
I can make it work. I can make it as early as 5:30 work.
You don't work downtown on?
I do.
You
but,
do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I can leave work as early as like 4.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
So we could say 5:30 to 8:30, December 10th at Fairfield Freshman School. Correct?
yep.
And then, Mrs. Lane, will you let me know if that's available? If not, we'll have it in conference room B
Okay.
at the FAB.
And then I'll have it on a future board agenda to vote officially on that date and time and location.
Okay. I mean, if you know it's available, we could make a
I
motion.
don't know
You
it's
don't?
available. I know the conference room at the administration building is,
Okay. But you don't know the
Reserved, but-
location is available yet?
we'll have to
So
check
we'll,
on that.
yeah, what
Figure
we'll
out a-
We have
probably
time to
end up
do that.
doing is reaching out to Mr. Berkmeyer and maybe going on a little walk and identifying,
Okay.
the best space. I know that the presenter mentioned she'd like to utilize some technology,
Right.
so we'll kind of walk around the building and try to figure that out.
Okay.
Yep.
That's great. So I will let her know that we are settled on the 10th, and we're starting at 5:30, and then I would let her know the location at another time. Okay, great. Thank you all very much. Mr. Smith?
Yep. All right, our next item for discussion this evening, board policies. And we have 5 of those up for discussion, and I'll turn it over to Roger Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I have 5 policies that I'd like to share with you this evening. You mentioned at our last board meeting, actually, if we were updating our policies regarding vaping, and so the first 3 of those are those updates. The first one is policy GBK, which is smoking on district property by staff members. This policy was just revised last year, so the only change that needed to be made was instead of electronic cigarettes, the policy now states electronic smoking devices and vaping, and that covers everything we need to for the staff policy. The next policy is JFCG, and it's tobacco use by students. Recently, there's been the passage of House Bill 166, and that expanded the juvenile tobacco laws and gave greater definition to them. It expanded the law so that it also includes young people up to the age of 21 years of age. And so what we did was took out our old language that talked about what tobacco meant, and there's a brand-new definition that is really quite exhaustive. exhaustive, almost said exhausting, exhaustive in the policy, and so that has now been placed in JFCG. The next policy regarding smoking on district property, it's a general policy. We had one for students, one for staff. This one is policy KGC, smoking on district policy. This policy had not been updated with our verbiage that is included in the other two policies, so the changes just bring this up to date. It hadn't been changed since 2007. One of the legal references was no longer there, so we deleted one legal reference, and now this is also aligned with our other smoking policies. It includes the electronic smoking devices and vaping as well. Any questions about these policies?
Just a comment. Some of the terms in here really remind one of their age. Biddy, I'm looking at policy GFCG. Biddy? Is this some type of, what is this?
I actually saw that and meant to look that up because I'm not familiar with it either, but it's some tobacco product, Biddy. I'm not sure what exactly that is, but it's still included in their policy.
And clove cigarettes, okay. All right.
All right. Any other thoughts or comments, questions? All right, policy JEDA is a simple change. This is to our truancy policy, and we've only made two changes. One is the addition of an Ohio Administrative Code reference at the end. The only other difference that we've made is for students, when they're being identified as being habitually truant, anyone that has a medical excuse, it doesn't count toward the hours necessary to be designated as habitually truant. So the words non-medical excuse or without excuse has been placed there to make that clear. The final policy is policy KK, and this is one of those policies that hasn't been revised for quite a while. It was adopted in 1995 and hasn't been changed. So we brought the language current with OSBA's recommendation. We've tried to do this, but this puts it in our policy that parents who wish to come in as a visitor to the school, that they do need to schedule, if they're going to classrooms, they need to schedule that visit ahead of time. So that the teacher is aware, they're not in there when the children are testing, or if there's something special that's going on perhaps. And so to avoid any disruption to instruction, they need to schedule their visits. It also, we've added an explanation as to why we require visitors to sign in at the school office. It's in order, most of us realize it, but it puts it in writing, that it's to maintain the safety of students and staff. Then we've updated some other policies recently where we've added language here as well that any participants or spectators at school events must abide by laws, ordinances, board policy, and building regulations. And also we've placed in this policy as well, what we've placed in several other policies, is that the principals have authority or their designee to take any appropriate actions necessary to make sure that unauthorized persons aren't in the building, and that they're able to remove those who are loitering or causing any type of disturbance. Along with that change, there has also been updates to the legal references. Any questions about any of these policies? Thank you very much.
Just an FYI, I did pulled up the handy dandy Google over here, and
Oh, good.
the word in question, that is a type of cheap cigarette made of unprocessed tobacco wrapped in leaves.
Okay, so it would be something you can recognize or identify. It's not something exotic that we'd have to, you
No.
see it with the student and you wouldn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Small hand-rolled cigarettes, they kind of look like a cigar.
Gotcha. Okay.
The that list is exhaustive right now, but who knows, a year from now, we could be
Right.
updating them again, so we'll see.
Great.
All righty. Thank you.
Mr. Moore?